Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick, Cornett, and Kent Meyers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And we welcome back a guest who's been away for a while, but's coming back full time.
Yes, Brad Carson, former law partner of mine, in his early days, has progressed on, had a spectacular career so far, but he has added another star in his resume by being named the incoming president of the University of Tulsa, and we're really pleased about that.
Well, and as should the community of Tulsa and the state of Oklahoma be, to bring Brad Carson back is a great thing. We're going to hear more from Brad coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
This place is all about the water. It was about the water in 1902, it's about the water today. People came from all over the country to bathe in these waters, to drink this water. Early in the history of this park, families came here to camp and to swim and to enjoy these waters. So it's always been a gathering place for families. I'm Bill Wright. I'm superintendent at Chickasaw National Recreation Area, and I am Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Nation recognized that statehood was coming, and the Chickasaw wanted to preserve this area, so they transferred this area back to the federal government in 1902. In 1906, it became the 7th national park in the system. This is my favorite spot in the world. Gosh, my earliest memories in my life were of this park. My grandfather was a park ranger here. He was really the biggest influence on me becoming a park ranger. To come home, to be where my roots are, to come full circle in a career, and then to be back where my heritage comes from as part of the Chickasaw Nation. It's hard to put that all in words, but it's a phenomenal time for me to be back here. Oh, I have the best job in the world. There's no question.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick, Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
It's really a pleasure to welcome back an old friend to the set of The Verdict, somebody that we have not seen in a while, but really have fond recollections of our prior associations. And that person I'm talking about happens to be Brad Carson, former law partner of mine. Brad is a native Oklahoman. He is a member of the Cherokee Nation. He did his undergraduate work at the University of Baylor and barely graduated because he graduated Phi Beta Kappa and was designated as a Rhodes Scholar. He then continued that academic excellence at the University of Oklahoma College of Law, where he graduated #1 in his class. After that, he has practiced law, as I say, with us for a while. He got into government service, first as a congressman from the 2nd District, elected twice, and then on to some administrative positions with the Army. He was the General Counsel of the Army and also the Undersecretary of the Army under President Obama. He has since leaving the government directly, he has taught at the University of Virginia. He has taught in a stint at Harvard, and of course he has also taught at the University of Tulsa. He is a great new hire by the University of Tulsa for their presidential position, and we're really pleased to be able to reintroduce him to you. Brad, thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be back, Kent.
Yeah, and it's great to have you coming back to Oklahoma. When you heard the TU job was open, walk us through your decision to pursue it.
Some of the happiest times of my professional career were when I did teach briefly at the University of Tulsa after I'd left Congress and before I joined the Obama administration. And so I really loved the place. And so when the opportunity came up to apply to be its next leader, it was a chance for me to come back to Oklahoma, come back to an institution that I loved, had given so much to me, and which I really passionately believe can be a vehicle for economic development and growth throughout northeastern Oklahoma and indeed the entire region.
What was the interview process like, and what vision did they expect you to communicate?
The interview process involved a lot of the stakeholders, from the trustees to the faculty to the staff to the students at the University of Tulsa. And so it was really great hearing their perspectives. And sometimes they had a unique perspective on higher education, on Tulsa, on the university itself. And the vision I promised them was this: I believe that what a school like Carnegie Mellon did for the city of Pittsburgh, the University of Tulsa can do for Tulsa and for the state of Oklahoma. And we should expect nothing less of it, because if you look into the future, cities are going to struggle if they don't have universities, or maybe sometimes the seats of government like Oklahoma City does. But if you don't have...
Brad, I understand from your resume, and it reminded me that I guess you are leaving a position at the University of Virginia, academic position. What have you been teaching at the University of Virginia?
UVA has been a terrific experience as well. It's a beautiful campus, extraordinary students, and I've taught classes related to national security. So I teach in the Batten School of Public Policy, and I teach classes on terrorism, nuclear deterrence, American foreign policy, to students who aspire mostly to go into government themselves someday.
Let me quickly change the subject on something that I just, in the interest of candor, I overlooked in your introduction, but I want to ask you about it. I was surprised to learn that you were called up during the Iraq War and as an intelligence officer in the Navy. And you, in fact, served time in Iraq, served in Iraq for a period of time, and was awarded the Bronze Star. How did that happen? Not the Bronze Star. Things. Not the Bronze Star. How did it, joining in the Navy?
Well, like most things in my life, I just raised my hand and somebody chose me. After I had voted for the Iraq War in Congress, I was there for 9/11, for the run-up to the Iraq War. It was a big issue in the Senate campaign, and I had voted as a Democrat for the Iraq War. And one of the things many people used to ask me on the campaign trail, critics of that vote, they would say, you're young enough, because I was very young at the time, to go fight this war yourself, but you choose to send my kids to do it instead. And I always vow this: if I get out of politics, I'm young enough to do it, that I will try to honor that commitment, that I wouldn't vote for a war that I wouldn't be willing to serve in. And so when I got out of politics in 2004, the first thing I did is I went down to the recruiter and signed up. I worked in with Navy EOD units throughout southern Iraq for a year. So it was a great honor for me to be part of that.
TU is a different place since you left. I mean, their areas of influence, their position in the city of Tulsa has been, in my opinion, greatly heightened. You're coming back to a university that's definitely on the rise, and I'm sure that was part of the decision to want to come back and be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. TU's had the benefit of some really progressive leadership over the last 20 years, and to follow up on that leadership, on some of the tough decisions they have done, it makes my life a lot easier. And Tulsa as a city is booming. Some really extraordinary things, from the gathering place to the downtown area, to new businesses moving in, to younger people coming and staying. So it's an exciting place, and I think TU, again, has to be a part of the continued development of that region.
Teaching at the University of Virginia, how have you noticed that students have changed, the college student? How have they evolved from the time that you were a student to today? What's different about academics from the student's perspective?
Part of it may be I went to school in Texas, And, in the summers, I worked at Quick Trip. I did the midnight shift at Quick Trip as the night manager. My students at UVA are all hoping to do internships with the CIA or Defense Intelligence Agency. And they come from parents who've often done that kind of work because they come from the Northern Virginia suburbs a lot of times. And so the sophistication of students, the ambition of students, is, I think, changed a lot, right? A lot of internships. Something at TU, we want to work closer relationship between colleges and the employers of the future. So that's a big difference from when I was a student. Is no one at UVA is the night manager of the 7-Eleven like I used to do.
You could be a daytime manager if you just stuck with that by now.
I could be wealthy probably, right? It's enough to be a regional manager.
What do you see, Brad, as the principal challenges that you're going to face and that the university is going to face in the near term?
I think TU is not immune from the problems that are going to affect higher education more generally, which is there's going to be fewer and fewer high school graduates in the next 10 years. And so there's going to be more ferocious competition for them. You have across the state, across the country, community colleges that are free already in Tulsa, but across the nation, Joe Biden. And so there's going to be more competition for the really good student. And TU prides itself on being the best educational institution in Oklahoma, gets the best students, and there are going to be more and more places looking for that scarce breed of student.
Brad, we're going to take a break here shortly, but I was wondering, are you going to be teaching any classes at TU?
I hope to. I've talked to them about maybe teaching my terrorism and counterterrorism class again for students in the social sciences.
Okay. Well, Brad Carson is our guest. Kent Meyers and I will be back more with Brad Carson when we return.
We want to reach out to every veteran we can in Oklahoma. There's somewhere around 340,000 veterans here in Oklahoma, and half of those are still unaware of their benefits or don't know how to go about getting them.
We help guide the veterans through the VA system. It's a giant maze, and we kind of help guide them through that maze. So our job is to try to help the veterans get everything that they're legally entitled to. There's just a special place in my heart for our Vietnam veterans and our World War II veterans, as well as any veteran, and that's why I do the job.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams rank #2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids got to know they can trust you. And that's what we try to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. Our guest is Brad Carson.
Brad, I know that COVID hit all of us hard in one way or another. And from an academic standpoint, some of the hardest hit institutions were the private institutions, not public institutions. How did the University of Tulsa, or how has the University of Tulsa fared financially during these difficult times?
It has been hard on everyone, and I've seen the University of Virginia try to grapple with it as a big public institution. TU has been really fortunate that we've had some remarkable leaders, people who recognized the threat of COVID early on, took it extremely seriously, the safety of students, faculty, staff. And I think TU has really weathered COVID And while, of course, it's not been a good thing to happen to enrollment or the educational experience for that matter, I think TU is going to come out the other side of COVID, really with a lot of momentum to contribute to this renaissance of Tulsa. And so I think it's going to be in a good place, and that's all attributable to really the terrific leaders that TU's had.
Tulsa's had remarkable athletic success considering the relatively small enrollment for a Division I school. Do you have goals or aspirations for the athletic department at TU?
Yes, to win. That's the goal. And so you're quite right. I was talking to a reporter I knew from USA Today who comes from Wisconsin. And when he'd read the news, he said that growing up, Paul Pressey, the great Tulsa player who played for the Bucks, was his hero. And so we have this incredible history, great football in the last few years. I think it's going to be something we build on. And we go deep into other sports, it's from rowing to the Olympic sports. Tennis has a great history. We are the smallest college to participate in FBS football. And so it's always a challenge, but it's one that we hope to meet, and winning is the expectation.
And of course, TU producing a linebacker. We're taping this the day of the NFL draft, expected to be taken in the first or second round. Brad, there's just so much to do when you become the university president. How do you prioritize? What are your expectations in that regard? And you can't do everything at once. So where do you start?
You're right. There is so much to do. Running a university is a very complex organization. And so I'm going to prioritize trying to get out and meet the alumni, to try to get to know the staff and faculty well, especially coming back from a year of COVID where many people, even some very new hires to the school, had never really set foot on campus.
Brad, I'm not sure that we still have your connection. Yes, we do. Okay. Fred Dorward in our prior show mentioned the upcoming recognition of a bad day in Tulsa, which was the Tulsa Race Massacre. It's coming up this year. Will TU be involved in activities relating to that?
Yes, absolutely. TU is very close to that. Lots of activity in North Tulsa, Greenwood District where that happened. So TU will be a part of marking that tragic day in Oklahoma, indeed national history.
Is there a way to bring the gathering place into TU's activities? And how important would that be for both parties?
I think so. I think not only the gathering place, but the Brady District now, the Tulsa Arts District has grown up. There's a lot of really remarkable things happening in the urban environment of Tulsa. And TU needs to be a part of that. Where our professors, our faculty, our students are part of these things, that we use these facilities to our advantage. That's one of my priorities, is integrating TU still closer into the city and being, I said, an engine for its development. But, to me, the city of Tulsa will succeed if TU does, and vice versa. TU's success depends upon the city of Tulsa's success.
Talk about your, without getting too personal, your personal plans about coming back to Tulsa, moving to Tulsa. Has that happened, or what are your plans in that regard?
So I'm still finishing up at the University of Virginia. Classes are still going on, and I teach, in fact, later tonight. So I'll be coming in June and start July 1st. And, for me, it's hitting the ground running. Back when you were my mentor in the practice of law, and I was in downtown Tulsa at the Crow and Dunleavy office there, I know lots of folks already. What's most fun for me in lots of ways is my peers, people like Joe Harris, who I've known since I was in my 20s, have now risen to places where, they're helping run the state, major institutions. And so it'll be fun to rejoin that community.
Yeah, you guys can join your own President's Club, you and Harris.
Exactly.
One thing politicians have to spend time on is fundraising, and one thing that university presidents have to spend time on is fundraising. And you haven't had to do a lot of that in the intervening years, I'm thinking, right?
Not too much, but luckily this time, unlike in politics, I have a better product to sell. The University of Tulsa is an easy sell. Running as a Democrat in Oklahoma, that was a hard sell.
we did a show here about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, on a department at the University of Tulsa that had made a pretty good reputation for itself dealing with cybersecurity. We had the fellow on, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but he was the head of that department, and apparently the University of Tulsa has that program that is in high demand from business, and I can see that fitting nicely with the types of courses or course that you may teach. Are you aware of that excellent department in what I am calling cybersecurity? I'm not really sure the proper name.
No, that's exactly right. You probably talked to Sajid Shenoy.
Yes.
And
yes.
The university is a big pipeline to the National Security Agency, other defense organizations are interested in cyber. We're actually establishing a whole school of cyber. And so, yes, I'm keenly aware. I look forward to seeing that through. And for your listeners out there who are interested in cyber, it's a great career field, growing. We'd love to see you come to the University of Tulsa and be a part of that.
Politics has changed somewhat since you left back in 2004, and I know you were part of the administration in the White House. But as an elected office, it seems like it's just the political divide has become more divisive than ever. What are your thoughts on today's political environment compared to when you left public office in 2004?
I think it is more polarized than even 2004. You could kind of see the trends developing that have really taken root in the last decade or so. I don't have any obvious answers to it other than empathetic to the other side. Reasonable people can disagree, and you should try to understand where they're coming from, even if you don't accept all of the premises or conclusions of their argument. So that's really, I think, what we need more of, kind of radical empathy, where we try to understand each other better. But it is a very difficult problem.
Well, Brad, it's been what, 15 years since you practiced law, approximately?
I was general counsel of the Army in the interim there, so that was about 10 years ago now.
Yeah. What was that position like, being general counsel of the Army? I have always been kind of a fan of the Army, having served, but didn't have the slightest idea what general counsel would do.
So, and at that level, you're kind of a policy person. I used to tell, I had 10,000 lawyers who reported up through me. I said, by the time any decision reaches my level, it's obviously a complicated, controversial one for which there's no easy answers. And so there's an administrative part where you're trying to keep this huge legal machine rolling. On the other hand, you're conciliary to the leaders of the Department of Defense, and they'll look to you for advice. And a lot of it becomes kind of extra legal, about what do you think, the wisdom, the politics of this, the morality of this. And so it's a really fun position that combines that administrative element with the role of being a true counselor to people.
Anytime there's a change in president at a university, there's an opportunity to get new people involved. And I assume you're going to be reaching out to people you've known through the years to help hopefully get them more involved in TU activities?
Definitely so. The staff there is really terrific, and Interim President Leavitt has assembled a really great team. So there's not going to be a lot of bringing in folks to that. But my hope is people I've known in politics on both sides of the aisle, people I've worked with in national politics, to get them to come to TU, to speak, to be a part of our world. That's one of my ambitions for certain.
All right. Well, it'll be good to have you back. Brad, thanks for coming on The Verdict, and it'll be good to have you back in the saddle come July 1.
Good to see you.
Thanks, you guys.
All right. Kent and I'll be back with the final word after this.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
So good of Brad Carson to lend his time to our show. You know, he's still in Virginia, still employed up there, but heading this way, and to kind of give, I think, our viewers and those who have watched his career and are fans of the university a glimpse of what his presidency is going to bring.
Yes, and he brings a lot to his presidency, having known him for many years. It's a rare combination of intellect and personality and humility.
And common sense.
Common sense, yeah. He will fit in well back in Oklahoma.
That's right. It's hard to set a limit on the university as long as he's there.
Yeah, that's right.
Because success has followed him throughout his career. We have a website we'd like to tell you about. It's theverdict.tv. Log on and tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a subject you'd like to see us discuss. And once again, we really appreciate incoming President Brad Carson, who's headed the TU as of July 1. That's going to do it for this week's show. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.